I've seen a lot of players, including professional players, talking about the issue of not having a team for their upcoming regional. So today I actually just want to give some insight on something that essentially costed me my last season VGC 24 to my world invite. And I wanted to just kind of help you guys understand how to pick a team and the mentality that kind of goes behind it. So you see, Lorcy here is a very, very, very good player. Lorcy, love you. Found my team, and then in the tweet here lied. You have Jin Fury, very good player, very good trick room player. I have no team and no clue why I'm going to Indy. Mine is seeing my boys. I'm behind. How? And then you have Sable Eye VGC. No team for Indy. Can I just have Yveltal back already? This seems to be a common issue in the VGC community, and it actually costed me my season last season. I went to Portland, Charlotte, Knoxville, and I brought 3 different teams to those events, as well as going to EYC with another different team. And I'm here to tell you that that is just not the correct approach to the game. Now, I know it can be daunting or overwhelming to just think about all the new additions to the game. Everything changes. We have Calyrex, we have all these single restricted Pokemon. The team building kind of changes a little bit because you just want to build around the restricted, and then like Kyogre comes and it's great, but then you face a Koraidon and that just feels horrible. Or you're playing Calyrex, but then you face up against something that kind of checks that and it just doesn't feel good. Or you're playing Calyrex Shadow Rider and then you face up against a Terapagos and it feels like a rock, paper, scissors matchup, honestly. I was in this situation last season where I just wanted to switch teams and kind of be ahead of the metagame, and I feel like that actually ended up hurting some of my results. I had a ton of 6-3s and just, could never really get over the top, and I think a lot of that was due to just lack of practice and fundamentally just sticking with a team and getting comfortable with it. So the first thing I actually want to talk about is comfortability. The comfort is key to doing well in VGC, as well as, practice and as well as knowing your matchups and stuff. But comfortability is actually key. If you see a team that you just already vibe with, let's say that you just really, really, really like to play, I don't know, let's say you like balance, right? You could just look through your selection here and be like, oh, okay, Will Tank. Here's a really nice balanced approach to the game. I mean, you have Incineroar, Amoonguss. That's been in, regulations since Regulation F. Zamazenta, I mean, this is basically plays like a setup Raging Bolt. You have an Assault Vest Bolt, Urshifu, and Pelipper. I mean, you have a different speed mode here where the Scarfurge can go off in rain, and then, you can protect the Pokemon. You can rotate the Pokemon here. You can rotate for Regenerator. You can rotate to reset the rain. You can set up your Zom and sweep. If this is your play style, then what I would suggest to do is just get a bunch of practice sets with the team similar to this. And don't be afraid to make changes. Speaking of making changes, that's actually going to bring up my next point is don't be afraid to make changes. If you see a team like this and it's a 9-3 team and place, 3rd place in this tournament overall and against some very good players, but you decide, you know what, I don't like a certain thing on the team, it's okay to test it. It's okay to try it. The biggest issue I think with picking a team is that I'm guilty of this, so I'm not saying like you individually just do this, but I'm very guilty of this. I'll play a team. Let's say I take Will Tank's team. I'll play it. I'll get pretty high on the ladder, and then all of a sudden, if I get hard countered by something, like I'll just trash the team, right? I just think maybe the team is not that great, or I'm not playing well with it, or it's countered in the meta now. And when in reality, you really just need to kind of set the tone and get comfortable with the team and do like a ton of reps. There are a few articles I kind of want to talk about, and I want to explain why I think that these articles are actually very valuable reads. And the first one is Scott. So Scott has this P2 Porygon 2 team with Incineroar and Amoonguss. This core was around for the entire regulation. Scott was actually one of the original creators of this team that Eric Rios and Alex Gomez ended up taking and doing very well in their tournament with. And I just wanted to kind of show you guys this article for a quick moment, real quick, because there is essentially some information in here where it's, no faith in a duck. So basically, he starts the whole entire regulation off, right? And he's just trying to build balance, and he kind of just understands like, okay, this Pokemon may not be as good, right? It might be among the bulkiest Pokemon in the format, but the strength of the modern hyper offense team might undermine its ability to function the way it used to. The point I want to make in this article is this is how the team started off, right? He didn't even have P2, just a silly, goofy idea. Then he puts P2 on the team. And as you go through and you look at all these variations, I mean, they kind of adapt and change. They drop P2 for a little bit. And then, okay, look, he finds out here, oh, P2 is still amazing. Terra Poison. Bam. Now look here. His team is starting to look a little more familiar, right? Keeps on playing, and he says, Raging Bolt's individually strong. He disliked its weakness to opposing Amoonguss. So he made a change, right? He was not afraid to say, you know what? I don't like this matchup into Amoonguss, so I'm going to make a change. So look, Gold Dingo counters Amoonguss with that ability good as gold. Here's another change. So then makes another change. Says, you know what? Shin Pal is not working. It didn't strengthen or weaken the team matchup against Landorus. Metal Coat boosted to make it rain, but pretty much he needed a better matchup into Landorus. And bam, here's the Urshifu, right? Scarf Urshifu, I believe it was. And now here's the January 6th Portland actual final team right here. And you could see just how it ran out in Portland. Didn't do as hot. And he has to remind himself that basically he's determined, even though the matchups were a roll. So he just didn't have the favorable matchups. Comes back, makes some more, another tournament run. And the Charlotte Regionals, right? Same team. Does very well. Does even better in the Charlotte Regional. And then comes down here and continues on to make changes again. This is the Eric Rios Alex Gomez version. And here's the Poke Paste for that with the information. But the moral of this article I wanted to show you is that Scott never gave up on the team. Several changes, right? Here's a Suicune build. Here's an Ursaluna Latias build. And Scott just kept working with it. And bam, finally comes full circle back around to what he was playing with the addition of Roaring Moon and Landorus, right? And then ends up going and makes the top 4 at Vancouver Regionals, right? Very, very impressive. Same thing with Angelo right here. Angelo top 16s at EUIC. Writes this really impressive article. I love Angelo. He's a good player. I'm friends with Angelo. I like Angelo. He's awesome. Here's the team building guide. And then if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see that he basically feels like this. He had a really strong Trick Room team. He made it to the top of the ladder with this team. He ends up refining the team. He finds out, hey, you know what? Size Spam's not that great. He adds the Smeargle. He's like, you know, I'm not really liking my matchup into Japan balance, right? And then they find cool techs and stuff, and they explain the cool techs. And then, you know, they have a really smart, just basically calling like opponents' bluffs if they're going to read into the Clear Amulet. But the point of this article I want to show you is there's a sentence down here where he goes, Brian, his friend asks him, Brian, you've had some pretty good finishes this season, but 2 of your results to the team are 6-3 and 3-2. Why are you still so confident in a team that's not getting you the results you're used to? And then he goes, he laughs it off a bit, but then he really thinks about it, right? He truly believed he had some more practice and dodged some bad matchups in Vancouver. It would have done much better. He used this question for motivation, and the upcoming week got prepared for confident for EUIC, and bam, Angelo ends up top 16ing at EUIC. So why am I bringing up these articles? It's just to teach you that if you just find something that you are absolutely comfortable with, you can essentially find your play style and just stick it out with that. So if you like Trick Room, you can go through these Limitless Tours and kind of find things that you think will fit your play style. Also, the third tip that I want to put on here is definitely check Limitless Tours over Showdown. Pokemon Showdown is one of the best tools that we have to our availability. You get so many practice reps, you can practice with friends. It's really, really good. The problem with Showdown is it's very easy to get discouraged. For example, if you're playing against like meta matchups and then you get beat a couple times by an off meta, just crazy wild team, it's curved my confidence for sure. I don't know about you guys, but it's like definitely made me go, okay, maybe this team isn't it. And that's just the furthest thing from the truth, honestly. These Limitless Tours are very, very valuable. A prime example of this would be Alex Underhill winning the 2024 Portland Regionals with this Ogerpon team, right? It's Chien-Pao, Dragonite, Raging Bull, Entei, Ogerpon, and Flutter Mane. This team had just won Tommy Tuesday's Christmas Tour the week before this tournament. That's why I'm saying when you go to these Limitless Tours, you can actually just go to the standings or you can go check the tournaments, right? Joe UX9 just won a tour, so you can check out what Joe's running, see common trends. Okay, so let's say that Indy is actually next weekend. You might see Joe running something very similar to this, so you might want to check it out and say, okay, what's Joe doing? What's Joe running? I think this is a lot more accurate to look at than Pokemon Showdown. So I would definitely take a glance at the Limitless Tours over Pokemon Showdown. It will seriously help you a lot. My tip number 4 is going to be practice. And I know, that's one that people don't want to hear. This is just the truth. If you look at LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Tom Brady, any of these athletes, do you think for a second that they just sat around and basically waited to get good at football or basketball? Or did they practice? Practice is actually key. Some of these pro players, when you watch them play, you're like, oh my goodness, that was an insane read. They are the best. They are the greatest. They are amazing. And while these players are amazing, you really need to play VGC to understand just how much work these players are actually putting in behind the scenes. I think practice is the key, honestly, to doing very well in these tournaments. If you get a ton of practice in with one team, not only does it build your confidence, It also builds your matchup knowledge, so you kind of get some muscle memory with what your EVs look like, what's dealing the most damage, what's giving you the most problems, and you just repeat these games over and over and over until you get some lines, you get some good Pokemon that you know to bring into the matchup, and you get some bad Pokemon that you know, okay, maybe these Pokemon do not come to this matchup, or hey, why, some Pokemon look weird on the team. Well, when you look at a team at glance and you see certain Pokemon, you're like, hey, why is this Pokemon on the team? When you're playing the games enough, you understand, okay, I need this Pokemon for X, matchup that I just can't win without it, right? So that's why practice is key. And I know, again, guys, this isn't a fun one to hear. It's just like dieting when people say, hey, just go to the gym to lose weight. I mean, it's actually true. If you just eat well and go to the gym, you can lose weight. The problem is, like, there is no magic team that's just going to counter every team. I'm very guilty of feeling like this. I'm very guilty of saying, you know what? I need a team that's just going to play it well into everything. The only team that's even remotely close to doing that is what I would say is balance. So if that's the approach you want to take, then just take your losses on balance until you learn the matchups, and eventually you will overcome that, and you'll get better with using balance. And that's what I would bring personally. If not, just find a playstyle that fits for you. Do you like Hard Trick Room? Calyrex Ice Rider would be a great place to start, and just build around that. Don't worry about the rest of the metagame as far as like what people are running, as far as like picking a team. Just focus on the metagame as far as like, trying to learn your lines or counter other teams that are going to be popular. That brings up my fifth and final tip, which is going to be preparation. Now, preparation just sounds like practice, but I'm going to actually speak on this a little bit differently. You see, if you're over preparing for, let's say, I don't know, Dondozo, right? And you literally put 4 counters on your team for Dondozo, and you face no Dondozo throughout the whole tournament, you've lost a significant amount of value on your teams. Instead, you need to look at the metagame and study these tournaments and say, okay, I'm going to ask myself, what are the most common teams that I'm seeing? For example, Calyrex Shadow Rider, you need to have at least 2 checks on your team for Calyrex Shadow Rider. You know it's going to be in the tournament, you know it's going to be a consistent Pokemon, and you know that it's actually going to do well. So if you could build your teams to kind of face these more popular teams that are going to make it to day 2, then you could just play through the gauntlet day 1. And if you put yourself in a good position day 1, then day 2, you should have positive matchups going into later runs into the tournament. A big mistake that I made, and that's why I want to share this, guys, with you, is I would hyper focus on, like, sure, my team plays well into balance, and sure, my team plays well into, gouging fire, and my team plays well into tailwind, but I'm so worried about this Dondozo matchup, when in reality, you have to ask yourself, mathematically, how likely is it that I'm going to see the Dondozo matchup versus a gouging fire or Japan balance team in Regulation F, right? And I would be guilty of trying my best to counter everything. And you just have to realize that you only have 6 Pokemon on a team. When you have 6 Pokemon on a team, you are limited to what you can do. 6 Pokemon, 1 item, 1 ability, and 4 moves on each of those Pokemon, leading up to 24 moves total. You are pretty limited in what you can do as far as the amount of Pokemon that can be in the game and viable in these single restricted formats. Now, I know I said the 5th and final tip. I'm actually going to give a bonus tip, and this tip is very simply just enjoy the process. This is a video game after all. I am very guilty of just getting caught up in it and just not having fun. But after watching some of these pro players, they laugh it off when they take losses. Or I watched Joe UX9 the other night. He hit a Astral Barrage into a Terra Normal Rillaboom, having the team sheet available. And to me, I would almost be devastated if that happened to me, because then you just kind of lose the game from there. And Joe just ended up laughing it off, and that's very, very respectable. And that's the kind of state of mind that you need to be in. Now, in the real tournament, you obviously need to kind of focus and just, pay attention to what's going on. But the fact that he could practice, laugh it off, he made a mistake, and then mentally, he jotted down, okay, I need to pay attention to my sheet more. So I definitely would say just enjoy the process. I mean, after all, this is a video game, and at the end of the day, you do want to be champion, you do want to earn it, and you do need to put the hard work in, but you do need to enjoy the process as well. That's going to be it for the video. I hope that this gives you some insight, and I hope that this just helps you out, helps you at least be a little more confident in your pick. That just be confident in yourself, practice hard, and just pick what's your play style. Like I said, don't worry about reinventing the wheel. Don't worry about just countering the entire metagame. Just pick something that you love or that you are comfortable with. If you like Rain, then I'd pick Rain. If you like Trick Room, go ahead and pick Calyrex Ice Rider and build around it. Build it to your style. Do not worry about copying the meta trends. Build it to your style and practice it. If you are seeing results, then take it to the tournament, and you'll have more confidence in each decision that you make. You'll have confidence in your rounds, You'll have confidence that when you get in tough situations because you practice with this team and you've just made it perfect. Let me know down in the comment section below if this helped you at all. I want to know what's some of your tips for regionals that you guys have. You guys have any tricks or tips that you use to prepare for regionals and to help pick team building? I know that this is a common issue in VGC, and it's one of the things that I am hyper focusing on mentally in my off time until the VGC 25 season. So let me know down in the comments below what your tricks and tips are for your regional approaches. And until next time, I'll see you on the next video.